Hi, Sarah. Welcome to the Raw podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing the drive down from Etobicoke.
Yes.
How long did it take you?
Yes. It took me close to 2 hours,
Did it?
to be honest.
Was the drive good?
It was good though. It's beautiful scenery around the area. And the traffic was really good.
Was
Even though
it?
there's construction. Yeah. So I just chilled to my music and bobbed along.
Okay, what were you listening to on the way?
Sleep Token. This is my favorite. Yeah.
Is it like rock band? Or?
Yeah, they're kind
okay.
of like rock metal, but they're kind of a mishmash of other genres as well. So it kind of touched all the marks.
All the feels?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, first question I ask everybody on the podcast is, what does authenticity mean to you?
Ooh, that's a good one. I mean, I want to say it's just being yourself, but what does that even really mean? Because we're such a culmination of, everybody that we know and how we grew up in our environment. And sometimes we change based on who we're with as well. So I think authenticity to me is just honestly doing the things that make you feel the best all the time and just like living your best life.
That was answered well, like compared to like some of the answers we've gotten in the past. Like I believe authenticity actually you evolve, like it evolves as you evolve because as you fall deeper into yourself and get to know yourself better, I think you just grow, right?
Absolutely.
So,
You're not a monotone individual. Like as time progresses and you evolve and you change and you learn, hopefully you do change over time and you aren't the same person you were 5 years, 10 years ago.
Exactly. That'd be boring, right?
It would be boring and it also wouldn't show any like progression or growth.
Right.
Who wants to do that?
Exactly. Okay, I'm going to ask you a couple of just firing questions at you a little bit. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Wine or beer?
Wine.
Fall or summer or winter?
Summer.
Summer?
Yes. Love the heat. This is really beautiful, but I get chilly very easily.
Do you?
Yeah. I wear 2 pairs of pants at work right now.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my God, and I'm like taking my clothes off. And you're much younger. You're still not in that whole pairing.
I'm getting there.
Hot flash kind of. Okay, so for the listeners and viewers at home, Sarah, you're a powerhouse. You are one confident girl. You are known as a plus size model. You work at a bridal shop. You do speaker slams. Like you kind of do it all. I think you're quite poetic. I think you're a representation for women, and I feel like you really preach just feeling good about yourself no matter where you're at. So let's talk about that a little bit. Like, have you always been plus size? Have you tell me a little bit about your life?
Yeah. Well, I've always been big. So in terms of my height, I'm 5'10", but I was 5'10" at 11 years old. So I stuck out very quickly. And even though I wasn't necessarily plus size compared to my 11-year-old peers, I was quite large.
Right.
And so I was very, very conscious of my size from a young age. And then as I got older, I had a lot of eating disorders for many, many years because I was always considering myself to be so large. Physically, I wasn't necessarily overweight, but I was always trying to make myself smaller. And then kind of as a byproduct, I did end up gaining quite a bit of weight. And I did get into that kind of plus size category probably in my late teens and have kind of sustained that for the rest of my life currently. So yeah, it's size definitely has been a factor for the majority of my life, and feeling like I'm too large or taking up too much space. But I've definitely been able to evolve that thinking now, and I use it to my advantage.
So what was the change? Like, how did you come to where you're at now? Like the confidence and are you, I don't mean to be rude, but are you really this confident? Like the way you portray yourself, is that really how you always feel? And I mean that respectfully, because you know how sometimes we can outwardly show a certain side of ourselves, a certain size of ourselves, but inside we're like, oh, are they looking at our roles? Like, Like,
Yeah.
it kind
I think it's natural for even confident people to have those moments and those times where we're not feeling our best and we are a little more conscious about how we're being perceived by other people. But I think overall, I kind of have an attitude of like, this is how I am. And I can't make myself physically smaller than what I am to fit into spaces. So if I'm taking up more space, that's just we're all different sizes. And so, yes, when I go to the beach, I do show off more of my body. I will wear a string bikini. It's shocking to some, but I'm on the beach. That's what I'm going to wear, and that's what makes me feel good. So I'm always kind of pursuing that. So I do think that overall I am a confident person. It's taken a long time to get there. I can't say that I was always like that for sure, but definitely I'm not afraid to show some skin. And I'm
Right.
not afraid to put on a crop top. I'm not afraid to put on lingerie or a string bikini. So, yeah.
have you ever had any glares or bad comments or people that have made you feel shitty because you are as confident as you are?
You know, it's interesting. Maybe it's because I'm not looking for that I'm not looking to see people's reactions to me. One of my things is prioritizing my own perspective, and that's really been a shift in my life is to prioritize my experience of the world. When I go to the beach, I'm enjoying the beach, I'm enjoying the water, I'm enjoying the sunshine. I'm not looking into the eyes of everyone else to see how they're reacting to me. That's not my business. That's
Right.
their experience. That's their perspective. And so remaining in my own perspective is really important. But I have to say, I feel like I am a bit luckier in that I can't pinpoint a lot of times where people have reacted to me negatively. In fact, I think it's the opposite because I exude confidence. And the way that you carry yourself and move through the world, I think really impacts how people react to you. And I think you can be an easier target for bullying if you don't take up your space and you don't own your space in the world.
So who helped you get to this confidence level? Like what are some of the tools, like if a young girl is watching at home right now, like what are some advice you'd give?
Honestly, on social media, like social media can be a double-edged sword.
Yes.
But on social media, I found other really beautiful, really confident women that I could follow and that I could model after in terms of how they move through the world and see that people can have successful lives just in the bodies that they are and be plus size models and wear really cool, funky clothes and just live their lives and not constantly on a daily basis think about their weight and if their rolls are showing or if someone can see their cellulite or, oh my God, I gained 2 pounds or things like that. Like it takes up a lot of time in your day. And so I think that that was really the beginning of the shift was actually just seeing other people living that kind of life.
This is something that I've always kind of struggled with is that, so say I came out in this outfit and I'm feeling great and I'm rocking it, and you look at me and go, why are you wearing that? Like, why would I allow your perspective of me to rock my confidence? And I think as women, we really do that. Like, and
Yeah.
I've stopped looking outwardly for comments. Like, I still like will ask my assistant, like, does this look okay? Because
Yeah.
I'm doing the show. But if she said it looks like shit, like, why would I allow that to bother me?
I think it's also qualifying the advice that you're getting. So if you're personally going to, your friend who is a stylist and you're saying, "Hey, does this go together?" and they give you feedback, that's one thing. But if you're looking for external validation where any opinion that's against your opinion is going to phase you, I think that's a different thing. And we really open ourselves up. I think you almost have to make a decision whether you like an outfit or if you're willing to change it,
Right.
and how someone also gives you feedback is different. Like saying, you know what, maybe this color is washing you out a little bit isn't the same as no, you look like shit. They're totally different. They're
Right.
totally different comments. So, I think having your confidence to stand your ground again, but also being open to who you're getting advice from is important.
Right, which is really important. Now, you work in a plus size bridal shop.
Yes.
correct? So how is that? Like, do you find that women come in with confidence, or how do you help them?
Yeah. Well, I absolutely love my job. So I do work for More to Love Bridal, and we are exclusively plus size and curvy bridal. So we serve plus size and mid-size brides exclusively, which is different than other shops are trying to just include a few plus sizes on top. We are the whole store is for this demographic. And, we get a mixture. There's a mixture of people that come into our store. Some are very confident and some are less confident. And I find actually that some of the mid-size individuals that come in are a little more critical of themselves than the plus size brides. But there's always a mixture. Like every single person is different. It also depends on the support group that people bring with them. Some people bring really critical individuals to come shopping. You have to be smart about who you're bringing shopping with you. Again, qualify their advice. Do they have the sense to be able to tell you respectfully their opinion and how they're presenting that? So we help people because, it's a store where you can come in and you can pick anything off the rack and it's going to fit you and it's going to come in your size, which again is different. A lot of brands recently, and just in mainstream fashion too, are trying to do extended sizing, and they're just including a few sizes above and very limited. And so you can't just go in and pick whatever you want. And I think that shopping experience where we're centering plus size and curvy individuals is really important, especially in the bridal industry, because in bridal, it's likely the most expensive outfit you're ever going to wear in your life. And you don't want to be guessing whether it's going to look good or not. And we have the styles and the variety to serve any bride and any style as well. Like we have black wedding dresses, which I personally love.
I saw you.
I love.
Beautiful. It's considered taboo, right? But no, rock it.
No, we have even wedding dresses that are blue in different colors. Like we really have opened it up, and we have elevated the experience as well. It's not an afterthought. It's not an add-on. It is for everybody, for the plus size body.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna get a little deeper with you in the sense of asking you, what's been the most sort of raw moment in your life that's been life defining, that's really changed you?
That's a good question. I'm going to take a sip of this.
Yeah, please.
While I
think about
this. I think recently one of my most defining moments was with my mental health, which I've struggled with since I was a young teenager. So I was first taken to the doctor when I was 13 for anxiety and depression. I was first medicated when I was 17. And I'm 36 now. And for many, many years after that, it was rounds of medication and therapies and all these different types of things. And in 2018, so about 6 years ago, it really came to a head for me where I actually had to go off work. I took a little bit of sick leave and then it extended and I never really made it back. And then after that, I started cycling through different jobs, and just my anxiety had taken over my life. And it really got to the point that I wasn't leaving the house. There were some days I couldn't even take my dog out. I was worried someone was going to be on the street and would just try to say hi to me. Like it got very, very dark and I wasn't functioning. And I had this moment where I thought, I'm on all of these medications. I'm constantly going to the doctor. I've done anxiety programs and therapy and this and that, and they're just not working. And I took a moment and I decided to come off all the medication. I'm like, I don't even know if these are just symptoms of the medications at this point. I got off of everything. My family supported me. I actually went to stay with my dad for a little while. And I just basically started from scratch. I was like, I need to know the bare bones of my mental health to build and heal myself back. And so that was in 2022 that I went to my dad's. I came off the medication and I went through an entire series of just reevaluating my health and, getting myself outside and what support do I need to physically get myself to go out the front door and to go to the grocery store, and really building up these really, really tiny wins. And it was pivotal because I had to basically unlearn everything that I had learned about my mental health up until that point. And I do have a degree in psychology as well.
Wow.
And really just building up all of these wins until I can now leave and I can drive to come here to visit you and be on a podcast, and I can go to networking events, and I can go to work every day and love my job and serve my clients and things like that. Like walking in a fashion show and being in a bathing suit in front of a crowd, I think is one of those wins over anxiety. I think that's a pretty blatant one. So I think that that moment where I decided to take control of my mental health, that was a very pivotal moment in my life and has gotten me to this point now.
Beautiful. So are you off all your meds now? And
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
And was that, I'm sure that was overwhelming and scary to go down that journey. Like, was it the support system that really got you through it, or?
I think that the support system was key, but it was me making that decision. That saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. There's a lot of things in my life that I needed to just take control of, and I just needed to do it. I just needed to make the choice to make going outside and being in the fresh air and being around greenery a priority in my life, and to notice that caffeinated drinks all day long, not so
That's
great
good.
for anxiety. And, there's a lot of really little things, but they add up to massive changes over time. And I just needed to make that choice and actually do those actions.
Good for you. So do you feel good now, or do you still have like?
I feel fantastic now, and I talk about transmuting anxiety to ambition. There's been a lot of mental shifts in my thinking as well, physical shifts in my day-to-day life, prioritizing my own experience, making sure that I'm in a work environment that's supportive. Being around specific people is also huge. They say that you're the culmination of the 5 closest people to you. Sometimes, I had to take a real look at the people around me and say, like, are they encouraging me to be better, or are they helping me stay stuck? And I think that was another massive shift for me as well.
For you. Okay, I know a little bit about a not so good relationship that you were in. Can we talk about that a little bit? Or you want... Is there anything off the couch that you don't want to speak about?
Which one are we talking about?
The gentleman that really took advantage of you in the sense of with the drugs and
the speaker slams.
Heartbreaker. Yes, heartbreaker. Okay, yes,
yeah.
Heartbreaker.
So the speech was Heartbreaker to Trailblazer, and it's not about me. It's about a man who his screen name literally was Heartbreaker.
Okay.
And he did kind of take me on a journey. He was a few years older than I was. He was my first ever boyfriend, really first guy that ever took interest of me. And that was manipulative in a sense that I had really low self-esteem, so I was vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just kind of timing for someone like that to come in and just tell me, oh, you're pretty, oh, you're beautiful, when I never really felt like that, and give me that attention. And so, over time, because I was just getting that smidge of attention and that smidge of affirmation that I wasn't getting anywhere else, and I certainly wasn't giving to myself, he kind of took me down a road. Now, whether it was deliberate and purposeful, we'll never know.
Right.
But it was definitely harmful and toxic in the end. But I think that's why I'm so focused on trying to help others build confidence, because I know that as a young person, so I was 17 at the time when I met him, coincidentally also the same year that I started medication for my mental health, is a whole thing.
Right.
I'm so focused on building self-esteem and confidence because it makes you less vulnerable to these kind of toxic relationships. And so, he was a drug dealer, which I kind of thought was cool. I thought, oh, he's,
Yeah.
he's an entrepreneur. he's, he's a businessman. And, that was very influential. And he had a certain lifestyle that I think I was idolizing. And, a lot of the way that he talked to me really changed my perspective. And unfortunately, I did get mixed in with the drugs. And as I was saying earlier, how my size was always a concern, he reinforced that my size should be a concern and that, you'd be prettier if you'd be thinner. And like, here, take some cocaine. Cocaine will make you stop eating and then you'll lose weight. Rich girls take cocaine. You should do it too. And it really, really just turned into this gross and abusive relationship over time. So
How'd
it's
you
not
get out of that?
great. I remember the moment we were living in an apartment in Markham and like was coming down off of, a cocktail of drugs that I had been taking and I was staring myself in the mirror like, ew, like, who are you? This is gross. Do you actually want this to be your life? And again, it was another moment where the only person that could really truly save me was myself. But I had to reach out to my support network as well to help me get out too, because I would have to move. And how do I get away from him? And it was a runner. It literally, he went to work one day, my dad, thankfully, and some of his buddies showed up with the U-Haul, and like as soon as he was out of the apartment, we grabbed all my stuff and I left. But I had to do that because when I had tried to break up with him prior, he did follow me around the apartment with a knife in his hand and was like, "Where are you going? Like, no one's gonna love you. No one's gonna think you're pretty. Where are you gonna go? What's your plan?" And so we had to, smash and grab the day of and just get out of there. And I'm very thankful that, I do have people in my life that were able to help me. And they didn't judge me. They were just kind of like, well, you should learn from this experience, huh? And they were, yeah, so that's
So how do you
happened.
go from a situation like that where your self-esteem and your worth has just been crushed and you're told every day by the person you supposedly are supposed to love and love you back? They tell you this every day. You got to start believing it at some point. Like, how did you get out of that to say, I am worth something. I am beautiful just the way I am. I don't need to take all these drugs. Like,
Yeah.
was that a work in progress for you?
I can't say honestly that at the time I thought, oh, I'm worth more. That that wasn't the thought. It was a little bit more superficial than that, to be honest, because I didn't see the road that I was on leading me to where I wanted to go in my life. And at the time I was in university getting my psychology degree.
Ironic.
I know, very ironic. Um, Getting my psychology degree and I saw myself leveling up. Like, I'm going to get a degree and what I'm going to live with a drug dealer and that's going to be my life. Like, he was a few years older than me. And it was, that kind of turned on the light and said, okay, like what road are you driving down? I can't say at the time I had that self-worth, but I did have the financial investment that I was putting into my university degree
Right.
that was a little bit on the line. So it was more superficial than that. I think that, there's a lot of focus on self-worth and a lot of focus on self-love. But at the point where I was at in my life, I didn't have that. I did not have self love. And if you had said to me, well, you just need to love yourself, and I was at such a level of self hate, it would have been such a juxtaposition of emotions. I couldn't have made that. There needs to be a bridge between self love and self hate, depending on where you are in that. And so later on, I came across like body neutrality, for instance, which is again that bridge because to go from hate to love it's such a huge jump.
Right.
It's such a huge jump. So that was helpful for me.
Wow. What was your upbringing like?
I grew up in a very small town. We had about 7,000 people. So I grew up in R.A.W, which is just outside of Ottawa.
Okay.
And it was Ottawa Valley, small town. You know, I walked 2 kilometers to school in the snow. There was a farm at the end of the street. There was another farm, field right behind. I was very low key.
Right.
Like there wasn't a lot of trouble to get into. Rode bikes a lot, played street hockey. Yeah, but at myself, I was kind of an overachiever in a way. I played a lot of sports. I played piano and I would do competitions and I did really well in that. I was like a straight A student. I was a bit of a keener, a bit of a nerd.
Right.
Socially, not very skillful. Very, very awkward. And again, being that super tall kid that just stuck out was just little awkward.
And your home life was good? Like your parents and kids and like your brothers. Do you have brothers or sisters or?
I have a younger sister. We're very, very different. My parents, my dad traveled a lot, so for work. So I didn't see him as often as I would like because he's kind of like my primary parent. I look like him. I have a lot of mannerisms like him. Um, like, and my sister is very much like my mom, who I love as well, but we're just different.
Different.
So I spent a lot of time kind of alone, to be honest. And, I did a lot of reading. I'd go out in the garage and like play with my dad's tools and stuff.
Oh,
He
really?
wasn't around. Yeah.
Love
Was
it.
there? But yeah, so it was very
Just kind of normal.
kind of normal, I
Yeah.
would say. Yeah. And then my parents split up when I was 17. 17 was a massive
17 was a
year.
big year for you.
It was a big year for me.
Yeah.
There was a lot of changes. I also moved to the city, so from a town of 7,000 to like the GTA. Massive shift, totally different. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Okay, if you could bring everybody you've ever met in your life, dead or alive, into one room, and you could only look for one person, who would you look for?
Everybody that I've ever met in my life. That's an interesting question. Who would I look forward to have a conversation with?
Or hug or make out with, like whatever.
But I had to meet them first, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
they could have been in your passing somewhere along the line of your life.
I probably my grandmother. She passed away when I was 12, but she was very influential. She would call me every Wednesday night to play piano for her over the phone, both my
Aw.
grandparents. She was also a nurse and she was just a very, very kind individual. And I know that she had a huge influence on my family. Like she was very much the person that kind of held the family together, held the family dinners, things like that. And she was just a really, really kind soul. So I think that I would have liked to spend a little bit more time with her and learn from her.
What would you say to her? What would you do if you were able to see her?
Probably tell her not to look on Instagram because she'd see my my booty. No, I would I'd probably just tell her that she had a massive influence on how everyone in the family acts in a good way, like her own children and myself, and that, she's been the biggest influence of the Boswicks, of Bos, like
Right.
myself, um, in sharing that positive energy. And we could have all used a little more of it, I think.
If you could go back in your life and do it all over again, is there a lot you would change?
These are getting harder.
Sorry.
These questions are getting harder. There's a few times that I've thought, man, I really wish I hadn't done that. But where I'm standing now in my life, I know I could not be without those experiences. I couldn't be here, sadly, without the heartbreaker situation
Mhm.
and all that I went through with that. And I couldn't be in a place to teach others and to empower others if I hadn't gone through the struggles that I would have gone through. That I wouldn't be teaching from experience, I would be preaching.
Right.
And I don't even know that I would even be in that realm, to be
Right.
honest. And I feel very privileged to have come through all of those challenges and overcome that to be able to teach others and to hopefully show others a path forward. So I wouldn't change too much, no.
Um, Something you're most proud of about within yourself, your life.
I'm most proud that I'm learning to live authentically because I think that a problem that a lot of people are having just in day-to-day life, whether they're celebrities or not, is living authentically and finding happiness. Because you can't find happiness if you're not living authentically. You're not going to draw the people to you who match up to your energy and who match up to your likes and dislikes if you're faking it all the time. And I think that so many of us are looking for external validation, and in that we shelve who we truly are. And unfortunately, we end up with the wrong people because we're not presenting our true selves. So I think that learning how to live authentically and finally finding the people that are supposed to be in my life and setting things right is a huge deal for me.
Good for you. Something you're not proud of.
Hmm. I'm not proud that for so many years I didn't invest in my relationships, like with my friendships and my relatives. And that I think partially I was so self-absorbed with my own mental ill issues, but I really wish that I would have paid more attention and listened more and shown up more. There's a lot of, special events that happen for my family and my friends that I was like, oh, I'm too tired or I don't want to go out today. And I didn't realize and see the value of showing up for others.
But I also, in your defense, I would give yourself some grace because you were going through so much with your own mental health, right? Like I'm sure there's reasons why you didn't.
Yes, but at the same time, it's like one of those double-edged swords. Like if I had shown up a few times more for those friends and family members, would I have had more support or would I had someone to say, "Hey, you're not doing so great. What can we,
Right.
how can we get you into a better place?" And so not investing in those relationships and not showing up did me a disservice in the long run because then I felt more and more isolated. So I was isolating myself.
Right.
And so, yes, there's a guilt to it, but there's also a reasoning behind it as well. But again, it comes down to choice, and every choice that we make has an outcome.
That's a lot. Sometimes. If you could go back and tell your 5-year-old self something, what piece of advice would you give?
Hmm.
Or it can be a little bit older because five's kind of young. So,
I was gonna say
yeah.
she probably wouldn't listen very well.
Yeah.
I I think I would want to tell her to use the weirdness and to use the differences to her advantage. Being a person who takes up a lot of space can be a really great thing because people notice you. It's easy to notice someone who takes up a lot of space. And so you can use that to your advantage. An 11-year-old who's 5'10" sticks out from a crowd very easily. How can we use that? How can we flip that and make it into a positive thing.
Love that. I
So.
love that advice. You've done burlesque in the past?
I did one show. Yes, I
Yes.
did.
And tell me about that. Tell me about that experience. Was it empowering? Was it?
It was empowering. It was different than what I thought it was going to be. There's obviously a lot of work that goes into a burlesque show. Interestingly enough, I found it much easier to get up on stage and take my clothes off than to get up on stage and tell a story or like give
With
a
your speakers,
speech.
like, right.
100% easier to just take my clothes off instead of talk about a vulnerable story.
Wow. That like just wow. Like think about that for a second.
And you know what? Getting vulnerable it's different, and confidence is different too. You can have body confidence but lack social confidence, which I had for a long time as well, and I've only recently been able to merge those. So the experience was fantastic. I had a lot of supportive individuals with me. I wish I wore shoes when I got on stage. I got on stage just in stockings, no shoes, and I looked back and I thought that was weird. And I also needed a little bit more tassel glue.
Oh, shit.
As I was coming off the stage, I lost one. So, but it was okay. It was at the end. Or it would have been a totally different.
Oh, yeah. It would have been a totally different show, eh?
Yeah, totally. But it was really empowering to get on stage with a group of people who were very different body types, different gender expressions, different styles. It was really interesting to see how people express themselves artistically. Mm-hmm. And it was a really great experience, but I almost backed out. I got really close to not doing it. Again, this was pre-2022, so there was still a lot of overthinking, and I genuinely almost didn't do it, but I'm really, really glad that I did.
Glad you did it?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Thank you so much for being vulnerable, because I know you just finished saying it's not the easiest. Maybe we should have had you take your clothes off and do a burlesque dance or something. That would have been a real raw show. But what's next in store for Sara?
Yeah. So I also go by Boz more frequently.
Okay.
Like Sara is a name that my doctor and my family typically use. Depending who I've met and how I've met them, people will refer to me as Sara, but I prefer Boz.
Okay, Boz.
I guess that's part of the evolution.
Yes.
That's part of the evolution. What's next? Well, I am continuing to develop teachings about transmuting anxiety to ambition, which is a mental shift. And I love that I'm able to share my experiences about building confidence. And so I have some classes coming up about exactly that, about building confidence, about anxiety, and kind of my journey and how I've escaped some of those things. And continuing to work with More to Love Bridal, because I have had a lot of jobs in my life, and I have never absolutely loved a job in my entire life as I do with working with plus size brides.
Right.
And
it goes hand in hand with the confidence that you're building in the bridal, because that's like the time that they probably need the most confidence in their life, right?
Yeah.
So good for you.
And I feel like I'm always my best when I'm in servitude to others, and all of those things combined put me in that place, but in a positive way. I'm not serving drinks at a bar, which is a very valuable job, but to be able to bring a little bit of my professional experience and my education all together into one, and to be able to serve people and give people a really positive experience is really great. And I love it.
Good for you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome.
This is amazing.
Let's get real.